Hey everybody. In this video I want to talk a little bit about the affective filter. So to me the affective filter is one of the most important concepts in language teaching. We know from our reading that the affective filter is basically the idea that the environment really impacts the learner. Their state is really important when they enter our classroom. So if they're in a heightened state of anxiety, they're not going to learn as well. If they are relaxed and present and in the moment, they're much more likely to learn and acquire the language from our classes. So it becomes really important for us to keep the affective filter in mind when we're teaching. We want to always make sure that our classrooms are as comfortable as they can possibly be so students can be comfortable. And there's a lot of different ways to go about that. This has a lot to do with creating classroom culture. If students see that you as the professor, as the teacher, that you're comfortable, that you're confident, if they see that your interests are aligned with theirs in terms of learning, that you want to help them learn, that it's not sort of a I'm the teacher, you're the student, I talk, you listen, but more of a team effort, more of a I'm the coach and you are the learner, and I'm going to do my best to give you what I can to help you get better at what we're doing, which is learning language. All that plays a big role in the affective filter. So if you have a student, for example, that is very nervous about doing things in front of their classmates, it's easy for their affective filter to rise really quickly. Why? Because they get nervous when they have to perform, whether that's to go to the board and do a math problem, whether it is to answer a question out loud, whether it's to read out loud. So imagine that student in a situation where you're asking them to use a language in order to practice it. Students have all sorts of mental states that make it where that's a very anxiety-producing activity. They get nervous. They don't want to be on display. They don't want to perform. And that's really challenging for you as a language teacher. So you have to be aware of that, and you have to create scaffolding so that when you assign an activity where students are going to have to work together, do a conversation, do a role play, or even give a presentational example of their language, that their affective filter doesn't just skyrocket because they're afraid of doing it wrong or not being as good as their classmates. There's a lot of things that contribute to the affective filter going up. One of them I just mentioned, and that's cross comparisons. If you have really strong students that are performing well and get it, and you're enthusiastic about their performance, that could also raise the affective filter of your students who are struggling a little bit, who aren't quite as good. So it's important to impart on the students that cross comparisons isn't necessarily the best way to think about how they're doing in your language class. They need to focus instead on their own improvement day by day. So day by day self-improvement lowers the affective filter, whether instead of saying my neighbor's so much better at this than me that I'm really nervous, instead of saying wow, I wish I had, or wow, I did that a little bit better today than I did in the last class. Now I see that I'm improving. That sense of improvement will help lower the affective filter. It's a really important concept in learning overall, not just in language teaching, but in learning in general. So always bear it in mind. You want to make sure that you're monitoring the affective filter of your classes. What are a couple of things that can really raise someone's affective filter? Well, we've talked about I+1. I being the baseline of students, their comfort zone, and the +1 meaning you're trying to go just a little bit beyond what they're able to do, so that they're learning, they're pushing themselves, but that's not going to raise their affective filter to a degree that they're unable to perform. But I+3, I+4, I+5, now all of a sudden you've blown through their comfort zone, you've skyrocketed their affective filter, and they may start to shut down. So it's something that it takes a lot of practice, it takes a lot of classroom time, but if you know what you're looking for and you understand the concept, you can start calibrating how you are maintaining a good affective filter in your classroom.